David Phelps was born on October 21, 1969, in Texas, into a home where faith, music, and education weren't just values, they were a way of life. His childhood was filled with the harmonies of gospel hymns, the warmth of church choirs, and family sing-alongs that echoed with love and conviction. From the very beginning, his destiny seemed clear. Music was his path, and faith would be his compass. Raised in the small town of Tomball, Texas, David grew up in a close-knit family. His father, Gene Phelps, was a hard-working businessman, and his mother, Mary Ella, was an English teacher who sparked his lifelong love of learning. But perhaps more influential than anything else was their deep commitment to their local church. Sunday services weren't just a weekly routine, they were the heartbeat of the Phelps household. And music was always at the center of worship. From an early age, David stood out. He had a voice, one that could stir emotions well beyond his years. His family quickly recognized that this wasn't just a cute childhood talent. It was a gift, a rare, divine gift. He began singing in church, at school events, and in local competitions. Wherever he performed, he left people speechless. As a child, he had an uncanny ability to deliver songs with raw emotion, something that would later become his artistic signature. But David's path wasn't without obstacles. Growing up in a small town, access to advanced musical training was limited. Yet his parents did everything they could to nurture his potential. They found music lessons, exposed him to different styles, and supported his dreams wholeheartedly. Throughout high school, David's passion for music only grew stronger. He joined the choir, honed his vocal technique, and quickly became known for his incredible range, soaring effortlessly into notes few dared attempt. But his growth wasn't limited to the stage. Thanks to his mother's influence, he excelled academically as well. His mind was as sharp as his voice was powerful. After high school, David made a life-changing decision. He enrolled at Baylor University in Waco, Texas, where he studied music and vocal performance. It was there, in the classrooms and rehearsal halls of Baylor, that he began to truly refine his gift. He studied classical music, opera, and advanced vocal techniques, skills that would one day set him apart in the world of gospel. Even in college, David's faith remained at the center of everything he did. He continued singing in church, leading worship, and using his voice to inspire others. Little did he know, his journey was about to take a turn that would change his life, and the landscape of Christian music, forever. Years later, David Phelps would become a cornerstone of the legendary Gaither vocal band. With his unforgettable tenor voice, he moved audiences to tears, lifted spirits in worship, and brought gospel music to global stages. His time with the group was filled with unforgettable memories, international tours, sold-out arenas, and nights of music that felt more like revival than performance. For David, the Gaither vocal band wasn't just a job, it was a brotherhood, a second family. Voices blending in perfect harmony. Laughter shared backstage. Prayers whispered before every show. It was a way of life. But even the most beautiful seasons eventually come to an end. When David made the decision to leave the Gaither vocal band, it wasn't easy. In fact, it was one of the hardest choices of his life. He had spent years traveling the world with Bill Gaither and the other members, sharing laughter, stories, and a spiritual bond few could understand. Walking away wasn't just stepping down from a platform. It was leaving behind a life that had defined him for so long. He knew, deep in his heart, that God was calling him to something new. He longed for more time with his family, the freedom to pursue solo projects, and the space to explore the music God had placed on his heart. But even with that clarity, the sorrow was real. The goodbyes were heavy. His final performance with the Gaither vocal band was one of the most emotional moments of his life. Standing on stage, singing those beloved hymns for the last time with his brothers in harmony, he felt the weight of every memory. The audience, unaware it would be one of his final appearances, sang along. Every note felt sacred. Every lyric, more powerful than ever. David looked over at Bill Gaither, the man who had given him this incredible opportunity years before, and they shared a knowing glance. They didn't need words. They both understood. This wasn't just the end of a chapter. It was a sacred moment of transition. When the final song ended, the applause was thunderous. But it wasn't just applause, it was love. Gratitude. A farewell between an artist and the people who had journeyed with him for decades. Backstage, emotions ran high. Mark Lowry cracked jokes to lighten the mood, but even he couldn't hide the sadness in his eyes. Guy Penrod gave David a heartfelt embrace. Bill Gaither offered quiet words of encouragement. And just like that, a season ended. Returning home after years on the road felt surreal. He no longer woke up to the bustle of tour buses, the laughter of backstage, or the rush of the next concert. Instead, he woke up to the stillness of home. To family. To quiet. And while part of him mourned what he left behind, another part found peace in the stillness. David poured himself into his solo career. He began recording the music that had lived in his heart for years. And though he missed the camaraderie of the Gaither family, he found joy in creating something new, in using his voice in a different way. Over time, the pain of departure began to fade. In its place was a deeper understanding that his journey wasn't over, it was simply evolving. He would always be part of the Gaither legacy. The music they made together would live on in the hearts of millions. And so, with faith and gratitude, David Phelps stepped boldly into the next chapter of his life, carrying with him the lessons, the friendships, and the memories that would forever be etched into his soul.